All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Hanging out with Casper a little bit here, and we're gonna do another one of our little Croc Talk podcasts with Casper, right? And just also FYI, just a little infomercial too. I do my underwater gator tours with Casper. You can actually come get in the water with me and Casper here at Everglades Outpost and take a swim with us. Check it out on my website, crowdallchris.com. But we want to talk to you guys today about alligators and domestication. So this is one of the very common questions people ask me is like, oh, so he's tame and domesticated, right? No, he is not. And I like to be very clear about the verbiage that we use, and we'll try to get him back over here. Casper is, throughout the video, he just kind of wanders around and, moves around. Come here. Why don't you back in the frame, buddy? Come. So we'll see if we'll get him back over here. Come here, buddy. But yeah, so I like to be very, very specific about the verbiage that I use and that I train him, but he is not tame and he's not domesticated, right? So let's kind of break that down a little bit. Come here. So training. So what does it mean that I train him? So train behavior from him. I do positive reinforcement training. So I have him do certain things like come to his name. He comes when he's called. He does know his name, things like that. And so I reinforce that behavior by giving him treats. Look how cute he is holding my hands right now, by the way. Isn't that super cute? Just hanging out right here. So yeah, I do positive reinforcement by giving him little tiny treats, and that gets him to come over and associate his name with getting fed, so he learns that. He learns to come when he's called, all that kind of fun stuff. He learns how to do the tour, but this is all trained behavior. This is things that he learns that I want him to do, and then he gets a reward for it, right? That's not the same thing as tame. That means that he's gonna do a behavior, and then he gets a reward. So you can train, as far as I understand, literally any animal can be trained to some degree, obviously. Depending on the intelligence of the animal is going to dictate how far the training can go. But from my understanding, you can train just about anything. Again, train means they're going to do the behavior you want them to do, and then you can give them a little reward, piece of food, whatever. So you can train just about anything: goldfish, alligator, octopus, whatever, obviously things like that. But again, trained is not tame. That does not mean that it won't bite you. That means it'll do the behavior based on the idea that he gets a reward for it. So you can train a wild animal too. So wild animals can be trained. Again, this is why it's so important to be very clear. It's not the same thing as tame. That wild animal, outside of the trained behavior, will bite you, okay? And that's why we say he's a wild animal. Now, wild animal means from the wild. I know that sounds silly to kind of break it down like that, but the reason I do is because he's a wild animal. He's not a domesticated animal. And this is where I really like to make sure we get our things correct here. So domesticated animals are things like dogs, cats, pigs, chickens. These are animals that have a wild type that has been domesticated. And domestication is the process whereby they have been bred for hundreds, if not thousands of generations, and sometimes hundreds or thousands of years. And that is selective breeding by people. So selectively breeding certain individuals for certain traits and characteristics to make them more docile, to make them more agreeable to be around humans. And so we remove certain wild instincts through selective breeding to make an animal completely different from its predecessors. And so the greatest example of this is look at a pug and look at a wolf and realize that used to be the same animal. That's crazy. That's domestication, okay? So that's taking that wild animal. Now, some animals are more domesticated than others, depending on how long this selective breeding process has been going on. Come here. I'm gonna get him back over here so you guys can see him a little better. Come here, big guy. Come here, big guy. There you go, buddy. So that domestication process, again, takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and that's where we're gonna get, a dog that is no longer a wolf, right? Now, things can also rewild themselves, though. That's where you get dingoes. You get a domesticated. So imagine, wolves are domesticated, selectively bred for thousands of years by humans. We get the dog, and then we bring the dog to Australia, where it's not native, and then domestic dogs are, they release, escape, whatever, end up in the natural environment, and then they rewild themselves and then become the dingo. And the dingo's no longer a dog. It's a separate thing because it starts to regain some of these wild instincts. How does that happen? I have no idea. Okay, I'm sure somebody does, but I don't. But the idea there, though, is that these are very different animals. The wolf is different from the dog, which is different from the dingo. And so they become different things over time. And so, that's just evolution in a nutshell, right? So in the case of domestication, though, this is selective breeding to remove certain wild characteristics. That's why, pet wolves are a bad idea. Like here at the Outpost, they have a couple wolf dog mixes where somebody thought it was a good idea. Oh, I want a pet wolf because it's gonna make me seem tough, right? Pet wolf. Oh, then they get it, and then it like pees on the floor, and they're like, bad, and you hit him in the nose, and turns around and bites you right in the face. They are wild animals. They have wild instincts. So your domestic dog is an animal that has so much of its brain altered that it doesn't think to do that anymore. A wild animal does. And this is where I really like to make it super clear that these guys are not domesticated. The alligators I work with, you can't domesticate something within its single lifetime. That's something else I like to really clarify. Again, domestication is this breeding process and removal of certain traits by altering its genetics. Your dog is GMO, is one of my favorite things to say. Dogs do not exist in nature. They're not a part of Mother Nature, and they're not a part of the natural world. They're a human creation, and they're a GMO animal because they are genetically modified organisms through selective breeding. Now, it's not the same thing as GMO in a lab, but it really is. It's still GMO because it is selectively breeding them. Casper, come back here. Get him back over here so you guys aren't just looking at me the whole time. We can hang out with him some. But yeah, so these are points that I really do like to make abundantly clear because people get confused about it. And they're like, oh, well, you've hung out with Casper for 15 years. That means he's domesticated now. No, it doesn't. His genetics are exactly the same. He is a wild alligator caught from the wild. So in no way is he domesticated. Now, could you domesticate alligators? Yes, you could. You can domesticate anything if you put the time in, and obviously the ability to do so. So like, let's say if I wanted to, I could breed the nicest alligators and find the best traits. This is what they did with wolves, right? So you find the most amicable ones, you find the most nice and calm, naturally calm ones. Casper, come here. And we only breed those ones with other ones that are nice, and then we get those nice babies, and we do the same thing with another gene line, and then we only breed the nice babies to other nice babies, and then over time we're getting the nicest ones, right? And so that's how that process goes on. There's been a really cool article about domestication in foxes and how when done with modern techniques, they could domesticate foxes. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was in some like extremely small amount of time, relatively speaking, but only through like, I want to say it was like maybe 100 generations or 50 or something like, I don't want to butcher their article. You could look it up, but it was in a relatively short amount of time when they're really doing it scientifically, right? So that's pretty cool, pretty interesting, right? So theoretically, you could find the calmest alligators, breed them with other super calm alligators, take those calm babies, and only breed the calmest out of that group of babies with other ones that are super calm and over time. And then we could, in theory, domesticate alligators or any animal realistically if you did that. Now, that takes a lot of time, especially with something with a longer time for sexual maturation, right? So with like, alligators or some other animals, they might not reach sexual maturity for 10 years, depending what kind of animal we're talking about. Some of them even longer than that. So obviously something like a dog, much shorter turnaround time on your generation right there. So with these guys, what I'm getting at is it would not be possible within my lifetime. I could not domesticate alligators within my lifetime. It'd probably take multiple lifetimes to be able to do that. But again, it could be done. I'm not going to do it. I don't have any interest in doing it. I like them wild. I don't want domesticated alligators. I want gators that keep you on your toes and that will kill you if you make a mistake, because I respect that. I like that. I don't want them to be safe. That's me though. I know some people do. I don't. But anyways, he actually looks like he might do something. He's got his tail slightly elevated right now, and so he kind of looks like he's thinking about maybe doing some sort of territorial display. He may or may not, but he's definitely thinking about it. And so from the way his body's postured right now, he could think about maybe doing a bellow or maybe doing a head slap. And that's kind of what he's thinking about based on his body language right here, right now. But anyways, back to our topic though. So again, he's not domesticated. He's not tame. But then Chris, why do you let him touch your face? Why do you let him get so close? I mean, obviously you trust him. No, I don't. That's another one I really like to clarify. I don't trust the alligators at all. I trust my ability to predict their behavior and anticipate what they will do next. And so because I've worked with alligators my entire life, I understand them extremely well. I know what he's going to do. And so I know what I can do that allows me to be safe. And so I know I can work within these parameters and keep myself safe and be able to predict his behavior. But it doesn't mean that I trust him. It means I trust me. If I just trusted him, I would just slap my hand against his face and be like, oh, he won't bite me. He will. If I slap my hand against his face, he would bite my hand. And this is another one as a wild animal. I've talked about this one quite a few times, but yeah, we got wolves and dogs in the background over here. But something that I've talked about a few times is that he doesn't love me like people want him to, and that if I were to do something wrong and slap my hand against his face, he would bite my hand, he would rip it off, and he would swallow my hand right in front of my face, and he doesn't feel bad about it. I know this because I have literally seen it happen with other alligators. So a good example is at a different place, there was a male and female alligator together. They've been together for decades as far as I know. The male could easily kill the female if he wanted to. Never wanted to. That's his mate. They're in love. They're together. One day, very sad, I was there, I saw it happen. She had a seizure. And she flipped over in the water and started having a seizure. And when I say immediately, I mean like literally, they're like over there. Before I could get to her, he was eating her immediately. That's what I mean when I tell you, like, they don't love you. They don't bond with you like that. That's not in their nature. That's not in their genetic makeup to act like that. As soon as there's something wrong, you're food. As soon as you do something wrong, you're food. Now, he would never attack her. That's the thing. He's not like homicidal. He's not like, I'm going to kill you and then eat you. It's, you are no longer you for whatever reason. You're sick, you're, whatever. You're no longer you. You're now food. That's how they work when I try to explain that to people. That's how I know if I fell down next to him, he would kill and eat me, and he would never think twice or feel bad about it, because I literally watched this male grab the female and immediately start eating her. If he wanted to just kill her, he could have done it at any moment. He's way bigger than her, so he could easily kill her anytime if he just wanted to be a cannibal. I also like to talk about this, but as far as the cannibal thing goes, people always ask, oh, don't they eat each other? That's an example right there. They're not trying, it's not like Hannibal Lecter. He's not going out hunting another alligator and I'm going to kill you and eat you. It's like, oh, you're dying, now you're food. They will eat each other like that. Not so much like, I'm going to sneak up and kill you because I want to eat you. It's like they get along fine. And then if something's wrong with the other one, then they become food, Now, every once in a while, in the alligator sense, yeah, they could stalk another one just because they can. They're way bigger. That is true. But that's pretty rare. It's much more common to see cannibalism in alligators occur because there's something wrong with one of them, and then they take advantage of that situation because of it, right? Not because one of them's hunting a perfectly healthy other one. That would happen if one of them's massively larger than the other one. That could happen, But that's a whole tangent to go down about like cannibalism and going on all that stuff. But back to this stuff. No, they're not domesticated. No, they're not tame. No, you can't actually trust them. No, they're not pets. I really emphasize that too. I didn't raise him from a baby. He's a wild-caught adult alligator as a nuisance gator. There's a rescue, so he came in from the wild as an adult, lived his whole life in the wild. But let's say if you did raise him, does that now make he's domesticated? Again, no. Again, domestication takes generations of breeding, right? So not domesticated, not tamed, yes, trained, not trustworthy. If you have skills, you can do all kinds of crazy fun stuff like I do because I understand them, right? So I think that should hopefully kind of elucidate this subject for some people. I know I get tons of questions about this, so hopefully that does. If it doesn't, let me know in the comments. Ask me some questions. Let me know what I didn't cover. I try to do these in kind of a single flow of consciousness and try to cover as much as I can. So if I miss something, let me know. Let me know any other questions you might have and what other topics you'd like me to be able to talk about on these. And as always, guys, like, subscribe, share. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next one.